This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत, झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत, झूमेगा भारत.
Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal, welcome and adab. You are listening to Bharat FM, a one-of-its-kind, multilingual, eclectic provider of entertainment, information and news to Indian Americans. Headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio, Bharat FM airs shows out of Cincinnati, Chicago and Phoenix. We take pleasure in our ability to cater to your bhakti, chusti, sfurti, shakti and masti needs with our audio and visual shows. Check out bharatfm.com for our online program schedule and archives. I'm sure the content will definitely tickle your senses. Tune in via the 24-hour web streaming on bharatfm.com or via the Bharat FM app. More information can be procured at 513-488-5070.
Hello there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sunday evening in India and Sunday morning in the United States. Welcome to Storytellers Café, and I'm your host, Usha Venkatraman. As you all know, Storytellers Café is a segment on Bharat FM media radio channel based out of Cincinnati with offices or stations launched in Chicago, Phoenix, and one more place that I can't remember. Nevertheless, it'll come back to me. So welcome everybody to Storytellers Cafe for a lovely evening of listening to stories or brunch with stories on a Sunday morning. Sit back, sit with your loved ones and enjoy listening to stories that warm the cockles of your heart. I have a wonderful guest tonight for us, but before I introduce my guest, let me remind you, Storytellers Cafe has completed 1 full year. That's right. It was launched on 28th June 2020 by me, and all my thanks to Bharat FM, especially Ashish Jha of Bharat FM and Manan Raval for inviting me to host Storytellers Cafe. It's been a wonderful journey to present before you stellar storytellers from across India and around the world. Today evening, I host a wonderful dear friend of mine all the way from the garden city of Bangalore. You know, it's always wonderful to sit with an old friend and chat. It's not an interview or expressions and conversations. It's more like listening to a story. You know, every telling of an event is a portrait of the teller and not the event itself. So says Michael Zapata in the lost book of Adana Moru. Well, my guest tonight is Aparna Athreya. Welcome to Bengaluru, Namaskaram, Bangalore city, and the rest of India, and good morning to United States. Aparna Athreya is my guest on Storytellers Cafe this Sunday, 13th June. Aparna is an award-winning storyteller, corporate trainer, children's author, and a leadership coach. Aparna is also the co-founder of Bangalore Storytelling Society, BSS, which has been my inspiration, and especially Aparna. I'll talk to you more about it. Aparna has worked in the software industry for 15 years before finding her calling in listening, sharing, and learning through stories. She has trained in several aspects of storytelling, counseling, developmental, and creative pedagogy. Being from the armed forces fraternity, Aparna found herself living, sharing, and breathing stories of courage, grit, loss, and the indomitable spirit of humans. She is also a TEDx speaker on storytelling and multiple intelligence. Aparna delivers training to large multinational companies where she delivers leadership programs by harnessing the power of stories. She conducts master training at teacher training institutions. She has been featured in Your Story as a leading entrepreneur and superwoman in Radio 1. Her organization has been covered in newspaper dailies such as Deccan Herald, Times of India, and the Bangalore Mirror. Aparna has won the Women's Achiever Award in Education by Canara Bank in 2016 and International Women's Award in the Garden City University in 2018. Congratulations, Aparna. That's indeed an achievement. Welcome to Storytellers Café. It's our proud privilege to have you host you on this platform.
Thank you so much, and congratulations are due to you, Usha, for completion of 1 year in this fabulous platform that you've created and offer to all those who have stories in them. So I think it's a wonderful way to bring to the world stories and storytellers. So, and I'm terribly honored to be in the celebratory event, after a year. So I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for your very warm introduction of me. And I'm waiting to talk to you just like we did all those years ago when we began a relationship and our friendship that's grown over the years. Happy to be here.
Yes. Thank you, Aparna. Indeed, it's wonderful. It's like sitting down with a good friend, old friend, over a cup of coffee. I just had my lunch. Maybe I'll pick up my cup a little later. But it's indeed an honor to host you during our anniversary month, where we celebrate a year of storytelling. And I always ask my guests, what's your journey? How did you get into this road?
Okay, well, that's a question I often find myself intrigued to answer. It would be unfair if I just, called it an event. I think my journey has been a metamorphosis. It's been an emergence. It's been a life cycle. And I think I should tell my story through a story that I once heard, which has deeply inspired me and reminds me of me. In a pond, there lived a little creature. Nymph was what she was called. And she found herself curious about everything around her. And she saw Mr. Frog every morning disappear out of that pond into some place she couldn't fathom. And in a while would return plop back inside the pond. And she wondered where Mr. Frog went every day. And she was curious and she couldn't wait to ask. She was a little afraid. You see, Mr. Frog was not the kindest of creatures. One day she found the courage and she went and said, "Sir, if you please, would you let me know what is it you do when you step out of that pond?" "Well, I don't like to please, but if you must ask a question, I will let you know. Well, every time I step out of that lake, I go to another world. Dry land, wet grass, where there's mangoes and marigolds and blue skies and white clouds and sunshine everywhere." "What? All of that? None of which I've seen." "That is fascinating," she said. Fascinated. Mr. Frog looked at her and said, "Well, if you like, I can take you there." "Really? It would be a privilege, Mr. Frog." "Thank you, sir," she said. "Climb onto my back," he said. And he went right to the surface, and as he was about to take that leap, little nymph found herself gasping for breath. She couldn't breathe. She just couldn't take it a second longer, and she just slid back into the water, and she tumbled back right inside. And finally she got her breath back. "Oh my gosh, that was a terrible disaster," she said. "Maybe I'm not just meant for the outside," she said, dejected, disillusioned. And yet, day after day after day, she would watch Mr. Frog and she would wonder what life was outside. Until one day, she found herself garnering an inexplicable force, something that was energizing her, something that was awakening in her. And she found herself being drawn to the surface, being taken up, 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 up. And she couldn't help it. And she found herself way up there, and her friends, her brothers and sisters, looked at her and said, "Nymph, where are you going? You can't leave us. Where are you going? Where are you going?" They said, I don't know, but I know I have to do this." She said, nah. She floated up, up and away. She found that she had two wings that opened up and took her to a land where she heard her brothers and sisters say, "Don't forget us. Please don't forget us. Come back and tell us how it is there." And she flew, and as she flew, she saw dry land and wet grass, mangoes and marigolds and blue skies and white clouds and sunshine everywhere. And she had a breathtaking view of the whole world, something that she would never leave. She never forgot her friends. She never forgot her brothers and sisters, but she knew that she would have to wait for them to emerge and take flight into another new world. And that story reminds me of me. It reminds me of my days in the corporate world, a very different world, a world I never regret, but a world that's very, very different from the magnificent world of storytelling that I find myself in today. It's truly, it also reminds me, on the other side, there's another metaphor which I find myself always being drawn to, and that is going into the rabbit hole. Alice was her name, Aparna is mine, but I find that we both are lost in a new world. And that's how my journey has been. Lots and lots of ups and downs, lots of new sights and sounds and smells, and most importantly, being able to connect with beautiful people, with a world that promises goodness, that promises a whole new era of connectedness. So that's my story, and that's my journey, Usha.
Thank you, Aparna. What a beautiful, beautiful landscape that you depicted for us. And that's what stories do. Took us onto a world of magic and mystery and wonder and enchantment. Yes, just like Alice in Wonderland. Stories do that to you, right? They create the magic of their own. Yeah, I wanted to ask you. So we got to know that that was your transformation from the corporate world into the world of storytelling. Now you are a corporate trainer. You love training teachers. You love training. I don't know about children, which also I do. You train parents as well. So a lot of your work in storytelling is all about training. Why did you choose to be a trainer or a coach?
Well, that's that's an interesting question. Also, because I get a counter question very often. And the question is, people perform stories. So what do? You call yourself a storyteller, and yet you train others to be storytellers. So what's your game plan? I'm often asked, and I think to myself, why is it that I chose? I take great joy. I find pleasure in creating storytellers, in building another generation of storytellers. I truly enjoy it. But if I were to just, join the dots back, one memory that stands out for me is a time when I was sitting with my husband, newly married back then. And we were sitting in Ambala, I remember, and he had just come back from a day of flying, there was an exercise going on. There was a defense exercise that was going on, and I was very curious. And when he got back, I asked him, "So what was it about?" He said, "Well, it was a combat mission." So we all know that in a combat mission, there are a team of people, and they all go on a mission together, and they would give up their lives for one another. I mean, we all know that happens in the armed forces. So when he said combat mission, I said, so who did, how did it go? Who did well? So then he looked at me and he said, "It's a team. We did well." So I said, but how was everybody? I was really curious, because he was a fighter pilot, and I know, all his friends were fighter pilots too. I really wanted to know who did it. And then he asked me a question which I will never forget. He said, "If I am in a combat mission and I'm flying with my colleagues by my side, and we're flying in a formation, who do you think should be the best pilot?" I said, "Of course, it should be you. The one who flies should be the best pilot." He said, "Think again, because the people who are flying by my side are the people who have my back, and it's they who need to be exceptional. I would love to be exceptional, but if they're not exceptional, my life is at stake. I would want those around me who fly with me to be as exceptional as I am." And that's when we all thrive and we all survive. It was a paradigm shift for me, because all the while, as an engineer, one is taught that one needs to excel. But here there was a new paradigm shift where we were talking of helping others thrive in order that I survive, And very often I think of this as one of the reasons probably why I'm drawn to training others. We're all on a mission. We storytellers are on a mission to create more stories, create awareness about storytelling, make storytelling a part of our work, and revive storytelling. If we want this to survive, then we have to create more and more good storytellers, or our survival is at stake. And I feel that I, one, enjoy training storytellers, but two, I'm helping others as much as I'm helping myself while I create new storytellers. And I think that is one of the reasons why I love to train and build new storytellers.
What a wonderful, wonderful narrative that was. Aparna, as I'm watching you, I see that everything that you say is a story. So, you beautifully weave events, and that's what it is, right? A storytelling is just a sequence of events. But how you weave it and make it engaging makes for an enthralling telling. And that's what we had. How wonderful. I have met Aparna's wonderful husband, very handsome, Badrish, and fantastic. He's truly from the armed forces, though I believe now he is made a switch to be a commercial pilot, and we wish him all the best. Aparna, there has been something intrinsic quality in you as a storyteller which impressed me when I first met you at the Chennai Storytelling Festival, way back, I think in 2013 or 2014. I really don't remember. That's when I saw you performing that lovely teen story about Kurukuru Kandre Kandre. Yes, yes. So, and then Aparna and I have been together and held a workshop for Agastya International, an NGO based out of Kuppam, about 3 hours drive from Bangalore city. And then our paths have crossed many times during international festivals and at other events. Aparna also has been an inspiration with her team, co-founders of Bangalore Storytelling Society, of which Aparna is one of the co-founders. And this kind of prompted me, egged me, kind of pushed me over the precipice, so to say, to start my Storytellers Society. Can you tell us a bit about the journey of Bangalore Storytelling Society?
Bangalore Storytelling Society is really a journey of people. BSS is just a name, but what makes it magical is the people who have come together and make great things happen. And I think great things happen when there is a shared purpose. And I find that in BSS, we all have a shared purpose. And the word that comes to my mind when working as a team is trust. And I think there is such a deep level of intrinsic trust and respect for one another, which really results in magic. It's really not about having extraordinary storytelling capabilities as much as it is the coming together of extraordinary people who all share the same passions, share the same values, and the same purpose. I'm reminded of Tao's story when I think of BSS as a team. And once upon a time, there is this young man who wants to possess the world's best porcelain bowl. And he knows that he has to go to the very best of shops if he wants to have the very best of bowls. And so he goes looking, and somebody points him down a narrow alley on the other side of the town where they say that the world's best bone china comes from there. And he walked in. And there were magnificent bowls that were kept right on the display. But even so, he wanted to check for himself which was the best. Each one looked as good as the other. And so he picked up a bowl and he wanted to do a test of resonance. He wanted to make the bowl sing. And so he picked up that bowl and gently dashed it against another. He expected music when they clanged, but he heard a dull sound. It was not musical. I should try another, he said. And he picked up the bowl again and went clang, dull again, and then again, and then again, until the master craftsman walks out, looks at him and says, "Young man, are you looking for the best?" He says, "Yes, I am, but I don't seem to find it." He says, "Let go of the one that you have. Pick up another. Pick up anything else and do your test," he said. And so he let go of the one that he first picked up another one, and then he went and dashed it against another. And there was a tingling sound that resonated and truly created music in his ears and his mind. Took it again and clanged it again. And again on another bowl, there was great music and great resonance. And on he went. He was fascinated. And then he looked at the master craftsman and he said, "Sir, tell me, how is it that I couldn't do it on my own?" He says, "Well, you picked up that bowl and that was incomplete. It had not been crafted to be the best. Everything else was." And on that day, he realized that when you pick up the right one, you get the best music. I think the creation of BSS was the coming together of people who were crafted beautifully, wonderful human beings who came together, and each one of us resonate with one another. Each one of us creates music and magic and stories, and that's how we've thrived today. BSS, when we started off as a very small outfit. We didn't aspire too much. We were happy with our purpose. We were happy coming together, professionals, all of whom had storytelling in their blood. But when we came together, what was on our lips was BSS. What was on our lips was the revival, the nurturing, and the promotion of storytelling. And because of that shared purpose, I find ourselves being propelled forward towards newer horizons. Today, we work with children, we work with adults. We coach young children to become storytellers. We have a meetup where people come and newbies become storytellers. There are people who have become professional storytellers where they've started off just coming to listen at a BSS meetup, go on to explore their own storytelling styles, and then become a professional themselves. So it's been a wonderful journey of watching others grow and nurturing others in the process, and knowing that every time we cross paths, we cling beautifully, and there is resonance, and there's music and magic and stories. So that's how we all have worked together, Usha, and that's the journey of BSS.
What a beautiful metaphorical storytelling, Aparna. That's your USP, I have realized. Wonderful, beautiful. That resonance of sound reminds me of a lovely Buddhist bowl, where you
Yes.
just ring the
Prayer
bell
bowl.
and it
Yeah.
resonates. Yeah, the prayer bell.
Yeah.
So that is wonderful. And for all you listeners out there, I would like to add that Bangalore Storytelling Society also holds international festival called Best every year. And it's a wonderful festival. And I would say it's more of a group of women with just one man who
Yeah.
stands out and who kind of is the fulcrum, I think, to the wheel, which goes around smoothly and
Yes.
balancing the yin and yang. And
Yes. I will tell
beautiful.
the
And I
name of the team since you're asking.
sorry.
I'll tell the name. I'll tell the team members since you mentioned. Let me tell the names of the
Yes.
women and the
Yeah.
men. So there's
Yes.
Soumya
Please go
Srinivasan.
ahead.
Yeah, there's Soumya Srinivasan, one of the old storytellers of Bangalore. There's Shailaja Sampath, who is our our senior storyteller and probably the most bubbly. Aparna Jaishankar, who comes again from a corporate background and is a vivacious teller. There is Lavanya Prasad, who's a dancer and a teller, and who comes with such beautiful expressions. And there is Vikram Sridhar, who's the lone man and highly dynamic and brings us all together. And then there is me. And I'm very happy to share our story with you, Usha. And I also want to add that we are delighted to be part of your journey. And you constantly say that, there is inspiration that you found in PSS. And we have gratitude for that acknowledgement. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, because I saw here a group, what would I say, organization or a guild that had come together to promote the oral tradition and to revive it. And that's always been my dream. And I thought, why can't I do that and start and give something back to society? So that's how Mumbai Storyteller Society started 2 years back. Anyway, that's another story. And we did feature them on Storytellers Café. Coming back to you, Aparna, I have to mention, and I would like you to share with all the viewers, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, about a couple of months back, validated and commended Bangalore Storytelling Society, and each one of you got the privilege to tell stories. I know all the team members, amazing storytellers, amazing individuals, and a big shout out to everyone from here. Aparna, can you tell us about Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Government of India conferring such an honor on the storytellers?
So obviously it was a magical moment for all of us because we had no idea that at a national level there would be such interest. And we received an invitation uh, to be invited to the Man Ki Baat platform, and it was obviously remarkable. There was great apprehension and anticipation and excitement because we had never had this kind of a platform where people across the nation would listen. And we were, like I mentioned, we are humble, we are modest, we don't have, ambitions like corporates do. So we're just a small, honest, authentic body of storytellers. And when we had this opportunity, there was such great joy. And you know the whole episode left us with conviction, with faith that in this world stories do find a place. And if we are, being featured at a national level, then the world still realizes the intrinsic value in stories. And this, we believe firmly, is one of the steps towards bringing back stories into our lives, into our work, into our, every sphere of what we do, because that's how it was back then in the ancient days. People thrived with stories, and we want to bring that love and um, that acceptance of stories into our lives in a wholesome manner. And we think that this was one such event which allowed that, which hopefully will open a doorway towards that.
Absolutely, definitely. Why not? It will.
Yeah.
It will. In fact, Aparna, I would like to ask you, this is kind of my last question, but it is not a small question. One is, if you see in India, and you and I have both witnessed the growth of storytellers in the last 1 year itself during the pandemic, and of course, a year before that. Um, and we do have different storytelling tribes like Chennai Storytellers, Bangalore Storytelling Society, Mumbai Storyteller Society. I think Pune has another association. Delhi has come up with, I believe now Bhopal has, and there is SIAC. Um, this has always been a pressing question in my mind, how we bring all of us together under one kind of a platform. Just like in the United States, you have the National Storytelling Network, under which there are so many Pacific storytellers and, Northwest and others. So this has been something that we as founders, co-founders of storytellers or tribes or associations should come together, because there are a lot of individual and commendable storytellers from different cities in India, who are not able to be part of a tribe or an association, but still have made a lot of ripples in the world of stories in India. So something should be done. And so my question is, what do you think is the future of storytelling in India? What do you think is the relevance of storytelling in this age and time as a storyteller? And do we owe something to our motherland?
Okay. All right. So yes, yes, and yes. Obviously, um, you and I know the old African saying, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go hand in hand, isn't it? So I think it's really important for all of us to acknowledge that as storytellers, we all share the same dream. We all want to bring stories to the focus. We all want to harness the power of stories. So, there is this whole matrix which I often talk about in coaching, and the matrix is about intention, motivation, and action, right? So in terms of, so it's a trial, right? Now each one is dependent on the other. Now without one, the other will not happen, or will not happen to fruition. So as I see it, I think the intention is there. There is great intention, no matter whom I speak with, no matter whom you speak with. I'm sure we all have the right intention. Our heart is in the right place when it comes to storytelling. We all want to do the same thing. So I think the biggest hurdle is the intention. So if the intention is there, what's left really is about how do we get the motivation for all of us. And even, in my mind, the actionizing is not something that is insurmountable. We all are people of action. We all have achieved our own, projects in our life, right? We all have achieved. We've got various achievements below our belt. So actionizing is not. What I do find we need to really come together is find that motivation that gets us all together and mobilize and create a vision for India, a vision to revive. I find, I find the story of yoga, the narrative of yoga, as one of the most successful narratives in recent history. Yoga is as ancient as time itself is, right? Adi Yogi is Shiva, that's what we say. So it's as old as time, and yet, and it is from our land. Yoga is from our land. We know it. We have our scriptures which point out to it. We have our sutras which talk about it. So it's so prevalent today, and yet we have managed to take it all over the world, and somewhere when in the recent decades when there was a risk of us losing out this, we managed to pull it back together by having a Yoga International Day, by talking about yoga, by taking ownership, by taking ownership, saying yoga is ours and we know it and we were willing to share it with the whole world, but it's ours. The same way, I feel that the story of Indian storytelling, Indian stories, right, our Indian folklore, our Indian mythology, something that we need to claim. We need to claim, be willing to give it away, be willing to share it, but never forget that we know it best. So if all of us find that motivation to reclaim what is ours and be willing to share it with the world, if we share motivation for that, then we should be able to mobilize action, because I feel that intention is there. We need to find that core motivation. What is it that binds us all together? That motivation is what will take us forward into action. So I think that's what I would like to answer to your question.
Thank you, Aparna. I think that was a very befitting reply. On a beautiful note, also to take our conversation forward, because mobilizing, motivating, two very important M's, and it can be done. It is possible. It's not beyond reach. But the only thing is to start. You have to have the initial propeller, which
Yes.
propels you forward. So I think, and this pandemic has also taught us that I don't know about you, but I have been in a very self-reflection mode, and I'm very clear that I want to give back to society. And I'm very, very clear on that note, how to do that. And Storytellers Café kind of fell into my lap. And the idea is not only Indian storytellers, but also international storytellers. But we have so many of us. And I feel, who will give ourselves a chance other than us? So we need to promote such wonderful talent. And the more I sit here, so many offers people write to me from around the world. Either they are Kada Kalakshepam, they do that in the style of telling, and they come up with a 12th century woman who was so forward beyond her times, called Akkamma Devi. She's one of my
Karnataka.
yes, she is a Karnataka. I mean, she is a Kannadiga in New Jersey, and she's going to be talking about it end of this month on the anniversary day on the 27th of June. Then I wonder, oh my God, there is a long list of storytellers I want to bring to the fold, and then. So once we exhaust the Indian storytellers, then I can. But then I was thinking maybe I should intersperse, because it's also nice to bring in variety, because variety is the spice of life, to do that. But such immense talent that we have in us, especially the oral tradition,
Absolutely.
needs to be brought out. So where do you think the storytelling will go now in these times? We don't know how long the pandemic is going to last.
Yes.
So what do you think? Is there something, would you like to take a shot at it? Think of what the future lies in for us? Because the only thing is that is holding us together is stories.
Yes. There is this old wisdom story. There's a Zen story. I don't know if you've heard it, but these two
No,
friends,
bring it on. Bring it on.
these two Buddhist friends, they have to climb up a mountain to reach the monastery right on top, and they both start on their journey, and it's going to take a few days to reach the top. So on one of the evenings, just before they were going to retire, there's a brook that's flowing by. There's a rivulet, and they washed their hands and feet so that they could go and rest for the evening. And just as they're washing their hands and feet, one of these monks finds a stone, a brilliant blue stone, something that nobody had ever seen. Well, he hadn't ever seen. It was the size of his fist. And he looked at it and he was simply taken aback. It was a remarkable, it was a magnificent stone. And he looked at it and his eyes sparkled blue because that was the color of that stone. And the other monk came to him because of the light. And he looked at him and said, "Ah, look at that stone." And before he could stop himself, he said, "Can I have it?" And this monk just looked at him and said, "Sure, here you go." And he gave it, and he took it, and he held it as if it was the most precious thing in the world. And he closed it over his hands, and he went to retire that night. Now, the next morning, they continued on their journey. Quietly, they walked beside one another. And suddenly, the monk who took that stone looked at his friend and he said, "I want to give you back the stone." So he looks at him and says, "Why? You wanted it? I'm happy to give it to you." He says, "No, I want to give this back, but I do want something." He says, "Well, what do you want?" He says, "I want to take that from you that made you give me the stone. Give me that," he said. And that's how I find the relevance of stories. It's not going anywhere because it is so intrinsic, to all of us. It's that precious value that it holds. It's that precious truth, which can't go no matter what comes and goes. The power of stories is never going to go because it's so deeply embedded. It's something that can't be touched or felt, that can't be bought. It's just there, here to stay. And that's the future, that's been the past, that's the present. So I think it's just there. We just need to unearth it. We need to rediscover it. We need to discover it within ourselves. And long live the stories.
Absolutely. Let's take a pause here and reflect on what Aparna has told us. Such wisdom, ageless wisdom. We all know. We just needed somebody to tweak it for us. And on that note, I would like to end today's Storytellers Cafe. It's been wonderful to host you, Aparna. And for all you listeners out here, Aparna Athreya is our guest tonight, all the way from Bangalore. And Aparna is a wonderful story coach, a corporate trainer, and an engineer by profession who beautifully transformed herself into a storyteller. And she loves telling wisdom tales or tales, Zen, you could say tales, or what would you call that? I think pearls of magic.
Pearls of wisdom, yes.
Absolutely. And we need that every moment in our life. It's been wonderful, Aparna. And this is our anniversary month. June completes 1 year of Storytellers Cafe. So it's a great privilege to have you and listen to stories. As you all know, the USP of Storytellers Cafe is stories, listening to stories or telling stories. And that's what we strive to do. And Storytellers Cafe has also become part of the OTT platform of Bharat TV. And this was launched a month back. And you will find some of the storyteller segments on this OTT platform. So we are, consciously selecting the segments where there are stories, because that is the USP. You have a lot of conversations and interviews and everything, but we want stories that add to anything. I mean, add more meaning to our life. Without stories, there is no meaning. So, any parting word, Aparna, before we close the session today?
Well, I wish all of you, the viewers, and dear friends of Usha, I wish you created a beautiful community. I wish you all lots of love and lots of goodness and health and happiness. I I can assure you with great experience that if health and happiness is what you're seeking, like I am, go back to the stories that reside in you, go back to the stories of your families, of your culture, and the world will be a better place to live in.
Copy that completely. So listen to Storytellers Cafe next Sunday. We are back with yet another guest, and she is from the closest state of Karnataka, or maybe Coorg comes under Karnataka, right?
Yes,
So it's from the state of Karnataka only. Coorg is another country which is akin to the Scotland of, it's called the Scotland of India, with its crags and mountains and coffee estates. Beautiful place. And let's listen to another episode of Storytellers Cafe next Sunday. And this is Usha Venkatraman signing off with Aparna Athreya. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening and a wonderful day in the United States.
thank you so much, Usha, for having me. Thank you.
Welcome to summertime, summer in the US. Yes.
Yeah.
See you next week, same time, same place.
This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.